Mark Wahlberg is no stranger to controversy, but no one could have predicted the storm that would erupt when he appeared on The View. Billed as a lighthearted appearance to promote his latest faith-based film and discuss his evolving spirituality. The interview with the actor took a sharp turn when co-host Joy Behar pressed him on his views about religion, politics, and redemption. What began as a lively discussion quickly devolved into an intense and uncomfortable showdown, with Wahlberg's calm demeanor shifting into visible frustration and Behar's signature sarcasm escalating into full-blown confrontation. The episode, which had been hyped up for its celebrity appeal, turned into a viral spectacle. As cameras captured the tense moment, Wahlberg stood up, unhooked his microphone, and walked off the stage after exchanging heated words with Behar. Within minutes, the footage was circulating across social media, igniting fierce debates, fan outrage, and a deeper reflection on whether The View had crossed yet another line in alienating their guests. Asterisk from the start of the segment, Wahlberg appeared calm, smiling, and ready to promote his latest project, a movie based on a former gang member's journey to priesthood. He talked about how his faith had grown over the years and how he wanted to use his platform to inspire others, especially young men who came from similar rough beginnings. "It's about making real change," he said. "It's about taking ownership and trying to do good in a world full of temptation." The crowd applauded, and co-hosts like Sarah N. and Sunny Hostin engaged warmly. But when Joy Behar took the conversation into edgier territory, things started shifting. "Mark," she said, "I appreciate the redemption arc, but don't. You think pushing religion as a solution for everything is a bit, well, preachy?" Wahlberg chuckled politely. "Not at all. I'm not pushing anything. I'm just sharing what changed my life." Joy wasn't done. "But don't you think it's a bit convenient to lean on God after a past full of violence and arrests? Is this real faith, or just good PR?" Asterisk, the audience shifted in their seats. The tension was palpable. Wahlberg's face hardened slightly. He didn't yell, but his tone grew sharp. "I don't hide from my past, Joy. I own it. I don't need to explain to you or anyone else why I found God." Joy raised an eyebrow. "Well, if you're doing it on national television, you're kind of inviting people to question it, don't you think?" The words hit hard. Wahlberg nodded slowly. "You know, that's the problem. People like you think cynicism is intelligence. But maybe hope, faith, and change are just too uncomfortable for you to believe in." There was a short silence, broken only by a scattered gasp from the audience. Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward to try and cool the flames, gently shifting the topic, but Joy cut back in. "You're a public figure. You've made millions off violent movies, and now you want applause for being a saint? Some people might call that hypocrisy." Wahlberg stared at her for a long moment before calmly unhooking his mic. Asterisk, "You know what?" he said, rising from his seat. "I came here to talk about something positive, something meaningful. I didn't come here to be attacked by someone who doesn't believe in anything but her own opinion." Joy fired back immediately. "I believe in truth, not convenient makeovers." Wahlberg, now standing, responded, "You don't believe in redemption. You believe in division. And if someone doesn't agree with your worldview, they must be a fraud. That's not journalism. That's ego." The audience erupted with murmurs and audible gasps as a producer signaled for a commercial break. Wahlberg handed his mic to a stunned assistant, looked once more at the table of co-hosts, and without another word, turned and walked off stage. The camera caught Joy shaking her head as Whoopi called for calm, but the damage was done. In seconds, the backstage area was buzzing with tension, and producers rushed to rework the remaining segments. What was meant to be a harmless interview had turned into a cultural flashpoint, live on air. Asterisk, as expected, social media exploded. Clips of Wahlberg's walk-off, Joy's accusatory comments, and the tense exchange began trending under hashtags like #WahlbergWalkout, #JoyVSMark, and #TheViewMeltdown. Fans rallied to Wahlberg's defense, calling Joy's line of questioning disrespectful, nasty, and anti-faith. Critics argued that Wahlberg couldn't expect to sell a religious transformation without inviting some scrutiny. Even celebrities weighed in. Chris Pratt tweeted, "Faith isn't a PR stunt. It's survival. Good on you, Mark." Meanwhile, outspoken journalist Megyn Kelly tweeted, "The View is where faith and reason go to die. Bravo to Wahlberg for walking away with dignity." Joy Behar's defenders insisted she was only doing her job, questioning what they felt. Was a calculated rebranding? The public was divided, but one thing was clear: the firestorm was real. And Wahlberg's appearance had become much more than a movie promo. It had become a referendum on what kind of redemption America is willing to accept. ABC scrambled to do damage control. A statement was released just hours after the broadcast. The View supports open conversation and the diverse perspectives of all our guests. While today's segment was unexpected, we continue to value civil discourse. Behind the scenes, however, insiders claim that producers were furious at how far the interview had gone off script. Wahlberg's reps also issued a short, firm message. Mark believes in sharing his story to inspire change, not to fuel division. He regrets the conversation could not remain respectful. Meanwhile, Joy doubled down on the next episode, saying, "On air, if people can't handle being asked tough questions, they shouldn't come on this show." The comment sent the internet into overdrive once again, with many accusing her of being tone-deaf and dismissive. Co-hosts like Sunny and Sarah tried to walk a diplomatic line, offering vague comments about the need for both challenge and respect. But no one missed the fact that Joy and Mark had become symbols in a larger battle between skepticism and belief. Between the past and the possibility of change. The ripple effects extended far beyond the studio. Wahlberg's film, previously on track for a modest release, saw a surge in online interest and pre-orders. Faith-based communities, churches, and veteran groups rallied behind him, praising his stand as courageous and calling the moment a wake-up call about how religious voices are treated in media. Several Christian radio stations played Wahlberg's old interviews back-to-back, praising him as a warrior for faith in Hollywood. Conservative media jumped on the story as evidence of ideological bias on network TV. At the same time, Joy became a lightning rod for a different kind of support. Progressive audiences celebrated her unwillingness to let celebrities coast on charm, bloggers praising her for challenging narratives they saw as too neatly packaged. Some said her questions were aggressive but necessary, especially given Wahlberg's criminal past. What was once a talk show segment had become a national conversation about truth, transformation, and who gets to tell their story unchallenged. Days after the event, Wahlberg made his first public comments in an Instagram video filmed in his backyard. Wearing a plain hoodie and looking composed but serious, he said, "I've never claimed to be perfect. I've made mistakes, big ones, but I also know what it means to turn your life around. That doesn't make me a saint. It makes me human. If that offends people, that's not on me." The video received millions of views within hours, with the comments flooded by messages of encouragement and support. Wahlberg's message hit a nerve. In a media world often focused on scandal and downfall, here was someone speaking about trying to grow, only to be ridiculed for it. His message wasn't about being right. It was about being allowed to speak without being framed as a fraud. Meanwhile, The View continued without missing a beat, but the tension lingered. Viewership spiked temporarily as people tuned in out of curiosity. But the fallout had left a mark on the show's credibility, especially among viewers who felt the atmosphere had grown too toxic for meaningful discussion. Industry insiders began talking openly about The View's struggle to balance relevance with respect. While the show had built a brand on being outspoken, it was now facing accusations of being hostile, particularly toward guests who didn't align ideologically with its more dominant voices. Some agents even hinted that they were reconsidering sending clients to the program, worried that the unpredictable climate would backfire on their talent. On the other hand, Wahlberg's reputation, far from suffering, seemed to grow. Media outlets that once ignored his spiritual journey began covering it seriously. Interviews he gave months earlier were suddenly resurfacing, showing a man clearly committed to a new path, not just promoting a product. Even secular critics began to acknowledge that his response, rather than being explosive, was controlled and measured. It wasn't just that Wahlberg had walked off, it was how he did it, quietly, deliberately, and with an unshakable sense of self that defied the spectacle around him.